I am Michelle Long, Michelle with 2 L's, long as in opposite of small or short. I guess what I've done is my first job out of college was at a big company, big Fortune 500 company. I ended up leaving that company because my soul was being sucked out. So after a year and a half, I felt like it was a complete meaningless experience. And in fact, I had tried to make myself enjoy it with a little creativity by creating my own marketing materials. And it was a pharmaceutical company. And of course, this was very much against the rules. But I thought the way that I was articulating the impact of these drugs was much more effective from my training. And as it turned out, they had completely exaggerated verbally the impacts of these drugs. But I wrote down what they told me. And these ended up in a big lawsuit between my company and another company, showing, testifying what we were doing. And one of the top people at the company had me come in to see him and said, Michelle, you can't ever do that again. And we think you have a really bright future with this company. I was just sickened, so I did not stay with the company, and I ended up traveling. I met a man right around that time, and I said, I want to travel around the world, and he said, I want to do that, so we got married and traveled around the world. And so we were gone for almost 2 years backpacking, and that just woke me up to a lot of things. I'd been looking for, there must be something else besides what I'd seen in my family and in this first corporate job. What else is possible out there? And I mainly was awakened to different people's ways of looking at things in different cultures, and greatly impacted by inequity. And so when I came back, it was during that kind of dot-com era, and I went to get an MBA because I didn't know what was next. Dropped out to start a dot-com company. Of course, my dad had said, 1, you couldn't leave that corporate job. 2, you couldn't leave and travel around the world. 3, when you got home, you couldn't move across the country. 4, you can't just start an MBA when you haven't got a job yet. 5, you can't drop out of your MBA. So, this was what my dad always said. But it was, I started a company that was, for the first time, you could meet the people behind the things that you buy. And to me, that mattered. There's something about that transparency, that relationship, that connection that would give everybody an equal footing. And that was one step of the journey. I learned through that, though, that people actually have more success, or at least my experience is, as an entrepreneur when they have actual direct relationships regionally, when they understand the markets better. And in fact, I could have a greater impact as an entrepreneur if I would start to think about what was happening in my own backyard rather than off in some developing country somewhere, developing, loosely used. But what about the problems that are being caused in my own backyard? So I ended up closing that company, and at that time, I just looked around for what are the challenges of the community that I live in that business could be part of the solution. And my husband and I then, this is funny, I just thought, I looked up online, because we had the internet then, because I had an internet company, so it was back in the days with the new internet. I looked up online, how could you do a statistically significant survey to find out what your community cared about? And then it was something about go to every 9th page in the phone book, go 4 lines down, call that number 3 or 4 times to give an equal chance of somebody answering. And I asked people, what do they care about where I lived? And found out some of the issues. And then I went around to different business people and said, I think business could be part of the solution to some of these challenges. And what do you think? What do you care about? What do you most care about? Your other people that live here care about this. And I said, what if we had a business organization where we all were contributing with our highest purpose, with meaning toward the things that we all care about? Would that be exciting to you? And it was to enough people. And so then we started a local organization, or a local network of businesses that was about solving the challenges that were environmental, economic, social, through business. And right when I was doing that, because things just unfold this way, someone contacted me to say that they were starting something similar nationally. they wanted to do what I was talking about, but in lots of communities. And I said, wow, your vision's so much bigger than mine. I only am imagining my own backyard. And they said, well, we have no idea how to do it in one place. So would you be our first staff? So then I started to work, and this is how Bali got started, which is where I am now. And Bali's been around a dozen years. I've been in and out as the executive director, as a board member. Now I'm currently the executive director again. And the world is very different than it was 12 years ago. The awareness of green, sustainable, local, business as part of the solution is definitely out there. I'd say that I always had this voice in some way that I knew what was next. I knew now this, and it hasn't been a linear path, but it's just now this. And about 4 or 5 years ago, the now this was more of a, not out there, but in here. So it was more of a, you could call it I called it a spiritual awakening. My now former husband called it a midlife crisis. So we have different opinions. I will take my opinion because I know what I feel, and I have gone into some of the pain of this life, some of the challenges that I had when I was young. I grew up in a house with an alcoholic mother, and with, like everyone, not all aspects of my childhood were ideal. And so we all try to get through those challenges in ways that keep us safe and give us the best chance of being loved. And I ended up, at a young age, kind of putting some armor around my heart. So although the voice was still there, and I would go, and I would do, and I would look, I didn't let my heart all the way melt, all the way open. I didn't let people all the way in, because I didn't even look all the way in. So the last 4 or 5 years for me have been this process of, I think, really using the skills that I've developed over my life. I have skills, I have some brain power, I have some abilities, and now my heart has completely and continues to unfold. And so I'm able to, I don't know, bring a wholer picture of myself, a deeper picture of what I think matters. And it has shifted me to a place of, well, it all just comes as it does, you know. So right now, over these years, the things that I've been working on for 15 years now are becoming a bit trendy, whether it be buying local, or your local farm, or green building, or even now community finance or community capital. All of these, there's more and more trendiness about it. And I've known a lot of the pioneers who've been working this way as entrepreneurs. And so I've known that they have come at it from a place of really caring. And so now, as my heart has gone through this melting, and I'm so deeply connected to my own caring, I'm able to speak from that place and to represent why that place matters, and the entrepreneurs I've known who are operating from that place. And just like all these other trends, we always, if it was green building, you find the pioneers that are architects, engineers, developers, and who care about the land, the animals, the community, and are starting to imagine how they could build and design differently. You get them together so that they don't feel alone, and they get more courage, that their ideas aren't crazy, and they help each other to innovate. And then you start to tell their stories so others can see how that's possible. And then a field starts to form where they can create some guidelines that help each other to imagine what would properly energy efficient windows be, and then some policy change that supports their ability. Anyway, every field has that kind of evolution, and I think now, if what you appreciate appreciates, we can do the same around the noticing of our hearts. We can say, acting from a place of truly caring, touching into what we believe and feel matters. And that because the world is in this rapid time of change, we can't make any bet on a particular kind of energy efficient window. We can't make any bet on Is it soil conditions that most matter? A lot of things matter. And what matters most, I believe now, is our ability to meet whatever this world's going to bring us from a place that benefits everyone, including me, not just me. This summer, I did a kind of sabbatical. I felt really, I met some people who, in Oakland, California, this man named Nipun who started Service Space. And it's basically a group of guys that came out of Silicon Valley 15 years ago wanting to use their skills to be of service. They called it Service Space. And they just give it all away every day. They're beautiful. That's another story. But when I was meeting Nipun, and everything he said, I just couldn't believe. And my organization is Bali, Be a Localist. And sometime in the conversation, he said, Michelle, you're not a localist, you're a levelist. And because I just kept saying, I love you, I love you. And he told me about this group of people in India affiliated with the Gandhi Ashram who are cultivating their ability to act from love first. And I immediately wanted to go. And so I went, they set up my trip, it all was in flow, I had this amazing experience. And when I came back, I told my board of directors I didn't know if I could, in fact, I told them I didn't want to be the executive director anymore. And because I needed just space in my life to be a good person. I needed to be able to consciously be kind so that it becomes an instinct, so that I actually have the space to do a little ritual each day around honoring our natural world so that I am aware. I just needed space in my life for that. And they said, no, Michelle, don't leave. That is the root behind what we're doing too. When we've said build a local, sustainable, healthy economy, that is about relationships. That is about caring. That is the heart of our work. And we need you bringing that as the heart of our work, and do that here. And so now we are being explicit about talking about the place from which true social entrepreneurship comes from. And I've even started to host, just so that I can have a community. I can do my daily practice. I can I do some meditation and ritual around the natural world and consciously be kind. But it's good to have a community, just like I said, with anything you want to try to grow. So I've started to invite people to my home, entrepreneurs in love, in right relationship. And we do together, we all now are growing our commitment to acting from a place of love as entrepreneurs, as change makers in a particular place. And so we will hear a story. We'll read a story about an entrepreneur that is living from this place, who's acting differently. And we will sit in stillness and reflect on that from not just our head, not like a book club discussion, but just from a place of stillness and our hearts. And we will connect with each other in some different exercises. And now people are doing that in a few different communities around the country. In Detroit, a woman that I work with that coordinates a network of food-related businesses in Detroit, a food hub. Lots of people are leaving Detroit now. It's really a hard place to work. And a lot of people have sort of given up on Detroit. And she doesn't want to. But it's hard going for her. And she said, I'm going to start to convene a group of change makers and food businesses around tapping into spirit, into source. As she said, something infinite that will actually enable us to stay at this work every day. And so, I don't know, I'm just bringing it explicitly, and then more and more into our work, into our annual conference, we hosted a group of community foundations 2 weeks ago that are trying to move their money out of Wall Street and into their own communities. And I just talked about this explicitly and asked them not to only consider that shifting their money into their community was a good new donor cultivation tool for new people that want to bring them to the community foundation, that it's sort of a hot new investment strategy, but to really feel into why this mattered to them. And so in these ways, I'm just incorporating it into our work. I even, when I went away on this trip this summer to India, I asked my staff team if they wanted to participate with me, and I ended up giving them all just like a little bit of money, my own money, not organizational, for each week to maybe unexpectedly do something kind for a stranger. And that was a really interesting experience. Then they would meet and talk each week about anything they'd done. One woman ended up, her cat died, and she wanted to cremate her cat. And another woman who was there was a lower income woman who apparently couldn't afford the cremation services, and so she paid for it. And this meant a big deal to this other woman. Another woman ended up cooking a meal for the security guard at her apartment building, and she's Vietnamese, and she really tapped into her roots and her grandma and the recipes, and it ended up being a big thing in their family. Another woman told me that because she'd been practicing this just while I was gone this summer, it became a habit. So one day she stepped off the subway in Philadelphia, and she had her bus money in her hand and the rest of her breakfast, and the man was there, and who was homeless and asking for some help, and so it became natural for her to give him the money that was in her hand and her breakfast and to sit with him while he ate it. So those are some examples of how it's showing up in my work and life.